Greetings. Today we are going to change the throttle shaft seals, which are felt seals, in a set of carburetors off of a CB750. This is the dual overhead cam. Same carbs as the CB900, CB1000, CB650, the older ones. So there's two different kinds of carburetors on a CB750. There is the one that has a single seal, which would be the two outboard carbs, and then the one that has two seals, which would be the two inboard carbs. This one also has the linkage for all the accelerator pump stuff too. The other inboard doesn't. But it's all the same. Anyways, okay, so we're going to start off with this one here. First, what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to mark this butterfly so that you know which side is the top of the butterfly. And then we're going to take these screws out, and this is a number 2 JIS screwdriver bit. That JIS stands for Japanese Industrial Standard. It's like an American Phillips, only a little bit different, and this tip will grab these Japanese screws way better than a Phillips does. Phillips, you might have trouble getting them loose and you might round them out. The JIS, I've never had a bit of trouble with it. So here we go. And these are in there kind of tight. So what you want to do to get them started is to give them a little snap, and then they should come loose. Once you get them snapped a little bit, they come out no problem. So here we're going to do it. Now they might turn out a little hard because originally from the factory they took and swaged over the back end of this screw. What they did is they mushed it outwards by hitting it in the center, and it mushes it outwards. And as you're taking the screw out, what you're doing is reforming the threads back to what they were originally. So it might turn a little hard, but it doesn't mean you're in trouble yet. Okay, give this a little snap, and out she goes. Set that aside. Now we're going to pull this throttle plate out, or butterfly as some call it, and you want to turn till you're just a hair over centered to get that butterfly out. It's a tight fit against the bore of the carburetor. There's only one spot where it'll come out. If you're turned too much one way or the other, it's not going to come out. It's going to fight you. There we go. Now we're going to pull this throttle shaft, and we're going to pull it straight out. Well, it helps if the carburetor's been cleaned, pre-cleaned. See how this dirty this is. Usually I'll put these carburetors through the carburetor acid before I do this, but since I had all the makings out to do a video for Goldwings, I figured I'd do CB750 at the same time. So normally that shaft will come out a little bit smoother than that. Now what we're looking at here is the factory seal, and then there's a little brass cup that goes with the seal. Now we're going to take the seal out from inside that little cup, and there's the factory seal. Oh, and then I just blew the factory seal away. There. Now, to get this cup out, what I'm going to use is, it's just a junky old cheap screwdriver, and I bent it at an angle at the end so that I can get underneath that lip of the seal. And I'm going to get underneath that, and then I'm going to gently pry side for side and work my way around until that cup comes out. You don't want to force it because it's real easy to bend this cup. You just want to keep going around, and there we go. Okay. If the cup does end up getting bent across the top or a little bit disformed, what you can do is you can take a 1/4 inch drive socket that fits just inside the cup, slide the cup over the socket, and then with your hammer just lightly peen peeing around the top of the cup and around the edge to get it back into shape. If you're slow and careful, it's not going to be a problem. It'll come out. Just take your time. Okay, and we got our new seal here. Let's get him out of there. Yeah, see the difference between the new seal and the old seal. My seals are thicker than the factory ones. They're twice as thick. The tolerances are a little bit closer, so you get a tighter fit on the throttle shaft. Okay, so what we do is we'll put my seal inside the cup, like that. Okay, now we're nice inside the cup. And we'll put that back in. Oh, she came out of the cup. There we go. Put that back in. And now you want this cup to sit flush with this carburetor body. So what I do is I use the flat of this, and I'll just lay that on there. Give her a nice little tap. Feel for it. Yeah, just a little bit more on that side. Nope. There she goes. Sometimes you can hear it when you hear it ring, when the tone makes it makes a different tone. Anyways, okay. So now we're going to take a little bit of this dielectric grease, and we're just going to put that around the seal, like so. Just a little bit of lubricant. Okay. Now you're going to find on this throttle shaft we're also going to have a metal washer, and we're going to have a fiber washer, which doesn't want to come off, of course, because they're stubborn. Okay, fiber washer and that. So what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of dielectric on my fingers. Take that fiber washer, coat it with dielectric grease. We're going to put that back on the shaft, and then we're going to take our metal washer, put him on the shaft, and then just a nice light coating of dielectric on the shaft itself. Okay. Now when we go to put this back in, you want to make sure that the throttle shaft is oriented in the same way as when it came out, which this one was facing forward like so. And also you do not want to twist this as you're going in, because the edges of this slot can wreck the seal if you twist it while you're pushing it in. So we want to go straight in with it till we get past the two slits of the edge. Okay, now just work it back and forth a little bit. Get that lubrication all smeared around. Get the seal sealed up nice against that throttle shaft. Okay. And now we'll put our butterfly back in. You want to be real gentle with this. Don't force it, because if you bend this stuff up, you're going to have to come up with another parts carbs in order to fix it. And this has to be pretty close to exactly where it came apart in order for it to close. Now we're getting close. When you get real close to being where you're going to close, you'll be able to use the butterfly against the bore itself to center it. And that's what it just centered itself. When you can get to close like that, and there's no gap here, no gap here, you're centered. You're in good shape. So now let's put the screws back in. Before we do that, I'm going to clean them up a little. Basically all I'm doing is grabbing it with my finger and my thumb, and the thumbnail is pushing against the threads of the screw. So now when I unscrew it out of the rag, it's going to clean those threads out. All the rust and corrosion and whatever nasty stuff happens to be in there from years and years of this carburetor sitting. Yeah, it was not too bad. Some of them are pretty nasty. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I got some Loctite blue, and I'm going to put some Loctite on this screw, and that's going to stop this screw from coming back out. Put that baby back in there. Sometimes you have to push down a little on it to get it to start threading again. There she goes. You'll feel it when it starts to thread in. Now you want to go snug and then back off a quarter turn, because we don't want to lock that plate in place yet until we get the other screw in. If you lock the plate in before you get the other screw in, it can interfere with the other screw going in straight and you can have troubles. So we'll just clean this other screw. Okay. And a little bit more Loctite. Okay. And nice thing about having a magnetic tip screwdriver, it really holds these screws nice. It makes it so much easier to get them back into the spot. If you don't have a magnetic tip, you can sometimes put a little grease on the tip of the screwdriver to get the screw to hold in place. Or you could take like a forceps and put the screw in and start it with the forceps. There's a few different ways it can be done. Okay, tie it a little snug and then back off quarter turn. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this seals good. And it looks it. So once we get it so we know she's centered, you're going to hold pressure on this, and then we're just going to do the last quarter turn to tighten the screws up. Okay, and that's it. That one's done. Okay, now for this one, I chose the most difficult one because all this linkage here, I chose to do this one just because why not, you know, glutton for punishment. Anyways, before we can get this throttle shaft out, we're going to have to take all of this linkage out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. This is the accelerator pump linkage for number 3 carburetor. What we're going to do here is we're going to pull this little clip out. We're going to put him down. There's a metal washer that goes with, and then there's a spring, and this spring has different windings on either side. You want to put this side down towards this little plastic cup. Okay, so that's how she goes together, just like that. Now that we've got the pressure off of this, what we're going to do is we're going to take this loose. Now this is your fast idle cam, so when you put your choke on, what this does is it pushes down on here, it lifts up on there, and it idles up your bike a little bit. This linkage needs to be in the right position when you put it back together. There's also a spring in here, and the bottom end of that spring goes around this post right here. So you want to be aware of that when you're taking it apart. There's also a couple of washers behind the back side of this, which I'll show you once I get it off. Okay. Now this can all come out as an assembly, just like that. And you've got two washers on the back side, just a flat washer and this little guy, which is a lock washer. Okay, and it goes flat washer and then lock washer. So we'll set him aside for now. Okay, now we got that out of the way. It's basically the same way as the other one, only now, in order to get it apart, what we have to do is take this nut off. Now this nut, it's fairly tight. And what you don't want to do is grab it here, because this is where your synchronization is. This is where you connect one carburetor to the next carburetor, which would be this guy, would go like that. They go together like that. And if you bend this, then it throws the synchronization between the carburetors way off. So what I like to do is grab it down on the base, down in this area. And this one's spring loaded, so we're going to have to hold it open a little bit to give it a grab. Oh, okay, how about we just tighten this up first? Okay. Okay, so we'll grab it there on the base. Now it's not putting any pressure on this arm, and also we want to make sure our throttle shaft is partially open, because any twisting force that you push down through this shaft is going to bend this butterfly, and it's going to twist the shaft, and it's going to make it impossible to put back together. It would just be bad. Okay, so now we'll take this loose. Oh, come on. Sometimes the hardest part is getting a good grab on this piece here. Okay. Give it a little bit more tension. There we go. That should do it. Okay, and there we got it. Now on carbs like this, especially these center carburetors, you want to make sure all the linkage goes back together the way it came apart, so take pictures. I would take pictures of each side, so when it comes time for you to put it back together, you can refer to your picture in case you're wondering, oh gee, what direction does this go in? So, okay, I got that. And there goes a little lock washer here. And we'll let loose of that. And this guy comes off just like that. I'll just leave him like that. Yeah, whatever. Okay, now we're loose there. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the other one. We're going to mark our up position on the throttle butterfly. And we're going to take these two screws out, a little bit of snap. Oh, before I get ahead of myself, on this side, underneath that piece of linkage, we also have our fiber washer and a metal washer, which we want to get out of there. And give her a little snap to get going. And next one. Yeah, a little. Have to get going. Okay. Now, this is going to be under spring tension, so it's going to be tough to get it open far enough without a lot of force. Okay, she comes out. Now what we want to do is we're going to slowly release the spring tension on this. Okay, see how it hits there? What we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to push out just a hair so it clears it. Oh, no, there we go. We had to clear that from there too until we're off of spring tension, which is right there. And remember that, because when we put it in, we're going to have to put it back in the same way. And we just slide our throttle shaft out with the spring, like so. And we'll put him down just like that so we remember how to take him back apart. Okay. Now, we'll do the same thing as we did with the other one, and we're going to peel out this seal, like so, and we're going to gently go around this edge. There she goes. Oh. Yeah, you don't want to let anything roll on the floor if you can get away with it. Okay. Now we'll do the same with this side. Get that seal out of there. Yeah, this one's just disintegrated into pieces. Yeah, when they leak like that, when these seals start leaking, it can cause erratic idle, inability to synchronize, high idle. There's all sorts of stuff that happens when these start sucking air like through this seal. There she goes. Alright. Get that out. Make sure there's no debris in there. Looks good, nice and clean. And get our seals. Okay. And we'll put him in there. Right inside the cup, just like the other carb. Drop that down into the well, and then we'll just give her a little tap. Beautiful. And to the other side, which, because of this throttle shaft, it makes it a little bit more goofy to do this side, but you can still do it. I mean, I suppose technically what I could do is go like that so that the choke shaft is down on the edge of the bench, and then we're dealing with a nice flat surface. So we're gonna do a little okay, very nice. Okay, now a little dielectric grease. On there, around there. Ridge of the seal. There we go. And a little bit on the other side. Like so. Okay, now we're in Lake Flint. Okay, what I'm going to do here, you see we have our fiber washer on this side, but no steel. Must not have been one, because I don't think these carbs have ever been apart. So usually there's a steel and a fiber, but sometimes on the spring side you're not going to see both. You'll just see one or the other. Or now you'll see the fiber. You always see the fiber, regardless of whether there's a steel. We'll put him back on there. And I want to polish up this shaft a little bit. Make sure that's nice and clean. Okay. A little bit of dielectric grease on the shaft. Oh, and sometimes on these, when you're taking them apart, when you're getting the screws out for the first time, you'll develop a little burr inside the backside of the threads inside the shaft. And what that does is it'll make it hard for this to slip back down into there. See, this one's no problem. It doesn't have a burr, but sometimes you'll have a burr down inside there, and what you can do is just take like a little piece of sandpaper, go in there with your sandpaper and sand it, or points file, like the old timers used to clean their points on the old cars, or even one of those fingernail shaping boards, like a sandpaper board for fingernails. Anyway, you can do that. But you got to get that burr out of there, because the burr is going to hinder the throttle butterfly from centering itself in the deal. Okay, so now we're going to put this spring back on, and he goes like that, hooks into there, and when we took him apart, it was like this. So we're going to go back in, just like that, get the spring up and out of the way. And then get that centered, get the screw or spring centered on both perches. Just push it in. Okay, well, we don't want to go that far in yet, because we still have to wind the spring. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to wind the spring. Okay, so that's where we were before. The spring is wound. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put this other side back together. We'll put the throttle butterfly in last, so we need a little bit more dielectric, because we're going to lube up our fiber washer. We're going to take our metal washer, put him on there, put on our fiber, and then we're going to put on our piece of linkage, which, if you remember, was in that direction when we took it off, so we're good to go there. And our lock washer and our nut. Some people like to put a little Loctite glue on these threads when you're putting the nut on. I don't find it necessary, because you got a lock washer. Sometimes it's tough to get this nut threaded straight the first time. You want to make sure you get it, make sure it goes on easy. Do not try to force thread this thing down, because it'll thread back on with your fingers, just like that. Okay, so, and actually, what we can do now, because we have this in place, we have that in place, is we'll tighten that bad boy up just a hair. Grab our plier. Oh, sorry. I got it grabbed by the wrong end. Oh, and that's in the way too. Oh, nuts. Is that how that's supposed to go? Yeah, that's how it's supposed to go. Okay. Just making sure. Alright. So we'll turn that like so. Get a good grab on that. We're going to tighten that up. Okay. And now we can put our throttle shaft back in, or our butterfly back in. Okay, so we're going to turn it to our open position. We're going to slide this baby back down in there, like so. Okay, there she goes. Okay, and gently let that close. Okay, beautiful. No gap. We're in good position. I can see right through the holes in the butterfly down into the carburetor, and the butterfly's not cocked or tilted. Well, it is a tiny little bit. So what we'll do is we'll do that like that, and that like that. You can move, sometimes you can move it around a little bit with your tiny screwdriver in the hole. Okay, looks good. And we'll clean up our screws. And a little bit of Loctite. And we'll get that baby back down in there. Get it started. There she goes. Okay, back it off a quarter turn. And repeat the same with this screw. Loctite. And put him back in there. Back a quarter turn. Work the throttle a little bit. Just make sure we're in nice shape there, and we are. And then we'll just tighten her up the rest of the quarter turn, and that's it. There. Now all we got to do is reassemble all of this happy stuff, which is this guy here. Okay, and that goes like so, like so. We're going to put that over there first, and then lose both of the washers. Yeah. And then regain both of the washers. Sometimes it takes a couple tries to get this in there. It's kind of a thing. Okay, I got him on there. Put that like that. And that might do it. It's also another thing you don't want to force. There she goes. Oh. Put that like that. Okay. Now, remember that little goofy end of the spring has to come out of here and get flipped over, and then over one more, until it's back. Back on that post, right where she belongs. Alright. Rock and roll. Now we'll just reassemble this back together with the fat end of the spring down. Pull down on your spring, give yourself some room. And got that. And that. And voila, we're in business. And we only got one leftover piece, which is this little guy here, and he goes right there on that end of this shaft. I just forgot to put it back on, but I'm not going to bore you with taking it all apart and putting it back on. So there you have it. Look at that. Everything works. Thanks for watching. You have a good day.